So we continue with the fourth statement in the chapter 5. So this fourth statement, this statement is a little more, I guess you could say, esoteric. What is discussed here maybe no kind of direct you and me right now, maybe no direct kind of way of really understanding, the important kind of underlying issue. Anyway, let's look at that. So the statement says, right, 5.4, it says, if realization has not arisen, then one has not mastered the analogical and the actual wisdom. So here, again, some background is necessary. Analogical and actual wisdom in this context is related to how the four empowerments are understood and how they are typically given or conferred. So and it's a complex matter because even in the Indian sources, the different Indian Mahasiddhas identify this analogical and actual wisdom with different of the empowerments. So the basic four empowerments, right? The base empowerment, the secret empowerment, the wisdom knowledge or knowing wisdom empowerment, and then the word or the fourth empowerment. So the fourth empowerment, the word or fourth empowerment, that one is clearly, I think everybody agrees, that is the actual wisdom. That is the actual wisdom that if you are introduced to that wisdom, and then if you are successfully introduced to that wisdom, if the guru successfully identify for you, points out to you, and you succeed in understanding that, then that is the actual wisdom. And then, of course, after this path, after this ground empowerment, or empowerment on the level of the ground, and then meaning how you start off, then you have to practice. Then you practice habituating that wisdom. And so the actual wisdom identified with the fourth empowerment, no difference of opinion with regards to that. But with regards to the second and the third, this is when there is like various positions with regards to whether what is being communicated at the second empowerment and the third empowerment, are they what's translated here as analogical wisdom, as in using something that we are familiar with as an analogy for what is directly realized during the fourth empowerment. Yeah, so there is like differences of opinion. It's the second and the third, right? Which one is analogical? Which one is actual? There are debates or differences of opinion there. So here in this statement, it says, if the analogical and the actual wisdom has not arisen, then you have not realized, or here, the translation on page 84, if you have the physical book, it says, if realization has not arisen, then you have not mastered the analogical and the actual wisdom. Yeah, so this is 5.4. So let's look at Khenpo Kunpal's commentary. Thus, if the realization of the meaning of the empowerment that has been introduced has not arisen in one's mind stream, then one has not mastered the analogical and the actual wisdoms correctly. Even if you understand the meaning based on the analogy, like a finger pointing to the moon, this is not the actual realization of that fourth empowerment. So here, what we see in Khenpo Kunpal explaining Jigten Sumgon's position on this is that this, if the realization of the meaning of empowerment, right, this is actually referring to what should be directly realized at the fourth empowerment. So if that is not realized, then the other empowerments have not achieved their actual purpose. Is what it's saying here. So even if you understand the meaning based on the analogy, so it says, even if the analogy, you understand the analogy, but you don't yet see what this analogy is pointing to, then in that sense, you have not really succeeded in you could say receiving this third empowerment. In particular here, it's the third and the fourth that is being discussed. So moving on. Therefore, the clear light of the bliss of melting the essential drops in the third empowerment is also not the actual Mahamudra of the fourth empowerment, the wisdom of unfabricated inborn great bliss. And so basically it's saying, there are some who says, that when they receive the third empowerment, they experience some kind of profound experience of bliss and emptiness. But then if their understanding is still just based on the method given in the third empowerment, then it's not sufficient. You have to actually realize also the fourth empowerment. So in other words, it's not in other words, I think what it's saying here is like the third is only successfully received when it quickly leads to the realization that is in the fourth. So the reasoning is stated in the sadhana of the accomplishment of wisdom. Bad people say the bliss arising from the two sexual organs is the true reality, unquote. The Supreme Victorious One did not say this is the great bliss. So now, a little bit more, we kind of get hints as to what this is talking about. Because in the Vajrayana teachings, this sexual experiences and energy are directly dealt with in a sense. So that sometimes that is used as an analogy for what the third empowerment is, saying that this experience, so here called the bliss arising from the two organs, this is can serve as an analogy for the Mahamudra realization of the fourth empowerment. But Kyobpa's point here is, if you mistake the analogy for the actual, then you are lost. And it's easy to get lost. I think across the Buddhist traditions, I can say that in most other traditions, they just close that door. They just close that door and say that insofar as, sexual desire, which is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful desire on the mundane level, They simply just close that door and say, you renounce that, or you work on renouncing that. End of story. Renouncing, transmuting, transcending, leave behind. In the Vajrayana, they dare to kind of open that door, but in opening that door, it can also open up a lot of question marks. In a way, you could say, this is for grown-ups, so to say, in the sense of like spiritually grown up. So I mean, it doesn't matter, how old or how young you are. If you're not spiritually grown up, then don't, just as they say, it's inappropriate for kids, right? I mean, in the mundane sense, right? Sexuality and sexual energy and things like that, it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate, to be discussed with younger kids, or for younger kids, to be exposed to it. So likewise, spiritually still young, just leave that. Then when you are spiritually grown up, so to say, even that, Kyobpa is addressing this problem. He says, he's addressing this problem, right? He's saying, don't get lost in the analogy. Don't get lost in the example given. The example given, the analogy given, that is given because of our mundane experiences. And showing how even such a mundane experience and powerful mundane experience has a basis in reality, has a basis, but it's not the reality state itself. It's not the innate bliss. This is a contrived bliss, a contrived pleasure that is used as a hint and analogy to the innate bliss, the innate pleasure that arises, that has nothing to do with the physical senses, much less the physical organs. Nothing to do with that. So this is how, this, and so it says, great bliss is not impermanent. Great bliss is always permanent. Why is the bliss arising from scratching rashes in the armpit not great bliss? Why is the bliss arising from scratching rashes in the armpit? Not the great bliss. So this is sort of, a polite way, scratching rashes in the armpit. They're talking about scratching something else also, but here it's saying, so if you have rashes, you scratch, right? And then it feels good, right? But then it's impermanent. So how can this be? And also that, right? They're using polite hint, how can that be? This innate bliss, this innate state of natural bliss that is not reliant on scratching. So here in 5, in the Rinzhen Changchuk, he says, you have to connect this statement with the statement in statement 28 in chapter 8, which says, on the 4 occasions, meaning the 4 occasions referring to the 4 empowerments, it is never the case that a transgression of the root pledges is allowed, or is prescribed. So 28 of chapter 8 says, on the 4 occasions, so in none of the 4 occasions is the transgression of the root pledges ever prescribed by the Buddha. So the root pledges here in particular referring to killing, stealing, lying, and here in the translation, right on page 95, in the footnote, it says engaging in sexual misconduct. No, it's not actually. These are the 4 root pledges of the Vinaya, like the fully ordained or the monks, monks and nuns. Monks and nuns is not just sexual misconduct. It's the lay level is training with avoiding sexual misconduct. But on the monastic level, it's any sexual contact, any sexual activity. So here, it says, that nowhere, in the giving of the 4 empowerments, can it devolve into. So the analogy of that. And the 3rd empowerment that uses the analogy in a very provocative way, you could say, uses the analogy of, they talk about the joining of the 2 organs. So it says, even there, it only goes as far as using it as an analogy. Never is there a case where the Buddha prescribes that, now you can temporarily suspend your monastic vows and make it meaningful. But this is a lot of, kind of, I don't know, it's kind of silly. For good or for bad, we live in these times, I think, some religious purists will say we live in terrible, degenerate times, People don't have morals or whatever, But on the other side of that, I would say, it's better, in a way, right? As in, if, your interest is in this mundane pleasures, it's more generally accepted, go ahead, but don't use religion. Don't use spirituality. You don't have to use this as a pretense, So in some ways, I don't know, saying this publicly, how come you Buddhist teacher talk like this, If you ask me, I say, people more open about, sexuality. Good, like you just do that, Like human beings, human needs, whatever, do that, go ahead. But don't bring it into, spirituality as a pretense, When you confuse the Dharma this way, then it causes so much harm, I think. Even to create doubts, confusion. That's why we should be careful not to create doubts or confusion for others, As much as we can, we should watch our own. Now, we are all still, right, working on transmuting our confusion. And then we need to be honest, I think, Reason I'm also talking about this is I just watched this new Netflix series, a documentary. I don't know if I would recommend watching it. It's a little hard. It's a little hard. Some of the things in there. It's about featuring 4 cults, basically, in Korea. Contemporary, things that happened in the last 20 years. And most of these 4 cases still not resolved. 4 cases, of cult leaders. And all 4 of them in this case. South Korea is kind of a strange place in that sense. It's historically it's a Buddhist country, but in the last maybe 50, 100 years, it has become very Christian. So much so that Christianity is fairly mainstream, mostly Protestant, not just Protestant, but mostly Protestant. I think Presbyterian and Baptist very strong. Probably influence of Korean War, American missionaries. I don't know if you all know, but after American Christian missionaries, the greatest number of Christian missionaries active, around the world are Koreans. But that also means that there are a lot of strange small groups, in Korea. These cults, like all 4 of them, are Christian based. I'm sure, mainstream Christian will say, no, they're not Christians, they're heretics. But they're Christian based. I mean, they read the Bible, they interpret the Bible. But in all 4 cases, like the pastor takes the claim, directly or indirectly, that they are the second coming of Jesus, or in some cases, they are the Holy Spirit. And then at least one common theme is how they tell their disciples sexual activities, sexuality is evil, is corrupt, is something that will lead to hell, except for when it's them, then it's pure. When it's with the pastor, then it's pure, because the pastor is God, and what God does, by definition, is not impure. And there are Buddhist versions of that, there are of that kind of thinking, of that kind of confusion. And I think, if we look closely at what Kyobpa has to say, and we really rely on Kyobpa Rinpoche's teachings, there should be no confusion. Even if someone approaches you and hints in that direction, you should have enough, clarity of mind to say, no, this is not how this is understood, just no. And as I was watching that documentary, and then there's also a lot of violence, physical violence, like beating of people who try to escape. And in the case of Korea, Christianity is combined with East Asian Confucianism. And Confucianism, at least one element of Confucianism, has a very conservative element, which greatly emphasizes obedience. I would say even that is a perversion of what Confucius taught. But historically, Confucianism has been so closely associated with the government in China. The government, in a way, the different governments of China, the different dynasties, kings, emperors, have used Confucianism to assert their control and authority over people. So then they have disproportionately highlighted the obedience element. And that element is very strong in Korea. Following rules, following the orders of your superior, unquestioning. So even though, like watching that, you say, oh, no, we don't do this, we don't believe this. But no, this kind of like confusion can enter any religious spiritual tradition. So we have to develop our own clarity about these issues. And then it doesn't matter who tells you, oh, this is important, oh, this is special, oh, this is something else going on. You need to develop clarity yourself and be able to say, no, this is not, And then especially in traditions, like you say, oh, we don't have this God figure, But then if you have traditions of like guru, right? That's why also, understandably, there are many Buddhists who will say, no, I reject this guru business, or I reject the Zen master claims of being enlightened. Good reason, I think, that they say, no, this is a corruption, because it has been corrupted. And so, we should develop clarity about these matters. So I, back to my point about, now, like, don't need to hide so much, what you like, what you don't like, So don't use your religion, spiritual practice, as a pretense for, what you like to do, what you don't like to do. Just do whatever you want to do, but don't. And then especially, when there are elements, so in that sense, we need to be a little bit more aware and careful about this. So when I was watching again, this series, this documentary series, I could see how, it maybe not to that egregious degree, but definitely the same mindset, using different vocabulary can be snuck in. So like the idea that, oh, well, if he's God, or he's the Holy Spirit, or if he's the second Christ, then by definition, what he does must be right. Now, how in Kyobpa's teachings, we know how Kyobpa emphasizes that no, it's not possible, is that he says, right, the very first statement of the Gongchik, the very first statement of Gongchik, which is that, right, if you don't remember, it says, right, the Buddha taught the actual reality of the nature or the state of all phenomena, according to this translation. And basically it's said with regards to, in response to, there are those, it says, that says that the Buddha being the Lord of the Dharma, and they interpret Lord of Dharma as the one who can say or do whatever he wants because he is the Lord of Dharma. So even then, in the 12th century, right, you already have that kind of thinking floating around. So then if somebody claims to be Buddha, if your guru claims to be Buddha, then by implication, right, they can say, oh, this action here, actually, if it's me doing it, oh, it's not non-virtue. If it's you doing it with me, oh, not non-virtue. Why? Because I'm the Lord of Dharma. And Kyobpa Rinpoche said, no. That's not how it works. Buddha is Lord of the Dharma in that he shows us very clearly with or without Buddha's telling us this is how things are. So even Buddhists cannot say, oh, it's meaningless even for us to think or anyone to tell us, oh, but in this case, Buddha says, this is fine. Yeah, so it's not like that. So now, right, this first statement of Gongchik, there's a few versions to what the first statement is in terms of the wording, but the meaning is all the same. The one that I have memorized is the Chukun Shisam Babki Neluk Ten. So that one, it says, so this is said in response to, in general, people claim that since the Tathagata is the Lord of Dharma, he teaches things as he holds them. And thus they are like that. Meaning, if he says it's like this, then it's like this. And then that's how things become. So then it's turned Buddha into this arbitrary God. But Kyobpa Jigten says, no, this is not how it is. Yes. Question. Good.
Lopön Lah, I have a question about the pure vision in Vajrayana. How we must aware about this pure vision to the Guru. Thank you, Lopön Lah.
Yeah, pure vision is not just to the Guru. Pure vision is to all experiences. The Guru is just a reference point that we use to train. And that's why you have to not simply take anyone to be this object that you train in pure vision. I think I've talked about this a lot. So in some ways, the Guru is serving like the very inspiring, Buddha statue. Can I take an ugly plastic, glowing image to inspire me? Well, I could, but kind of hard, to inspire me to remember about the Buddha. But then this statue is like, those Christmas lawn ornaments. Plastic. Well, it's supposed to remind me of Buddha, but I'm having a hard time with that, So I look for, the most well-crafted, within the means, right? Within my means, what I can get with the money that I have. So I look for the most well done, the most inspiring statue, right? I can find that I can afford. Right? Then I put on my shrine. Then, when I train, oh, Buddha is like this. Then it works better, right? You see the analogy here? So don't choose, plastic glowing gurus to train your pure vision. It's going to be very hard. And no one can demand pure vision from you, even Buddha. It doesn't work. You cannot, just because I'm the Guru, you are the disciple, you have to have pure vision on me. Any teacher who kind of works like that, you should be a little bit careful about. And any community, I would say, that I feel, excessively emphasizes, you have to have pure vision of the Guru. You have to have pure vision of the Guru. You have to have pure vision of the Guru, right? I'm not saying 100%, but I'm saying you got to be a little bit careful about this group. Because there could be some rather fishy things going on. If the group have to keep insisting, you need to have. Can you imagine, Buddha Shakyamuni's time? The disciples always saying, you need to have pure vision of our guru. You need to have pure vision of our guru. Right? Then I'm like, wait, why? If it doesn't naturally arise from the heart, and you have to have people enforcing this pure vision business, I think something fishy is going on. Just like when somebody, if you imagine this scenario, hopefully you never meet this scenario. You meet a new family, let's say, that moved in, right? And then you get to know them. Then when you get to know them every day, everyone in that family says, we love each other so much. 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 The family. After a while, you're like, there's something going on here. People who love each other so much don't have to keep repeating that to people. There's something fishy going on. Also places I feel, that keep saying, you have to keep your samaya, you have to keep your samaya, you have to keep your samaya. Something is off already, Not 100%, but something is off already. Samaya, pure vision, Then in non-Vajrayana communities, I will also say this. In non-Vajrayana communities, slightly different vocabulary. So even in our communities, we might see this. Again, if there is disproportionate emphasis on don't gossip, don't gossip, don't gossip, don't gossip, don't gossip, don't gossip, don't gossip. Right? At least to me, what is telling me is someone is trying to silence something that is going on. Gossip is not always bad. I don't know if you ask me. It's not categorically bad. Everything is stages of bad, Historically, human beings have used gossip in a skillful way to keep things in balance. We say, right? There's a saying in English, right? If there is no fire, there's no smoke. Right? So if, again, disproportionately, I'm not saying, just, saying, don't gossip. Gossip is very harmful. Watch your speech. Yes. But then if you hear a lot, or if you hear the teacher always, talking about, oh, gossip is very bad. Gossip is very bad. You need to have pure vision. You need to have samaya. Gossip is very bad. If like every other talk they give is like that, you're like, what is going on here? Usually there's some fire somewhere. Maybe the fire wasn't intentionally started by the leaders of the group, because it's human beings getting together. Yes, accidentally we could all start a fire. I'm not talking about the blame game. Like not the example of these 4 cult leaders. In that case, it's so extreme. There's no question. At some point, these pastors decided to start fires. So to say, then smoke is everywhere. But more likely, we are involved in communities where people accidentally start fires. then attempts to cover, then create more smoke. Then instead of really putting out the fire, we try to manage the smoke. Then we say, oh, don't gossip, oh, samaya, oh, pure vision, all this talk, Again, if there's excessive talk like that, I say, buyer beware. When I used to teach in college and universities in the religious studies department, some people, conservative religious students, actually would say, my pastor or whatever told me not to take classes with the religious studies department. Yeah. Why? Because according to these pastors, we will say things about the material that is different from what the church says, and will destroy the faith of the people. Same, like with Buddhist studies, when it first kind of appeared in Asia, like in Taiwan, there were very many conservative Taiwanese monks and nuns will say, oh, this is like slandering Buddhism, slandering the Buddha's words, But I said, no. Yes, of course, it could turn into that, but I said, but what we are doing, I defended my academic department. I said, what we are doing is making people better consumers, put it in kind of capitalistic terms, to make you more informed, if you are going to be a consumer of this or that product, let me help you see the claims that they are making, and then you decide yourself, those claims reasonable or not. So a lot of historical cultural processes are usually hidden, not deliberately, just the way they developed, right? It's hidden. So the sanctity, the authority, the holiness of institutions, of people, of personalities in religion is often built through a set of devices that develop over time. So I'm not having a cynical position towards any of this. I'm just saying the way holiness, the way like the holiness of a person, the holiness of an institution, the sanctity of an institution, the power of an institution, of a person, of a role, even the role of a guru, the role of a priest, all of that. There are historical forces that were there that led to a particular way of putting together, right, this package. I feel that the more we know how this came about, the better we can relate to. So I feel that even this academic approach is actually good for Dharma. So sometimes people say, oh, he's so academic. Yeah, maybe I am. But I really think, this can help us, navigate potential problems. And I hope I'm able to offer some of you some of this so that you can become more and more discerning, more and more clear about your own intentions, and therefore more and more clear about what other people's intentions are. To be honest about it. Be clear and be kind. Summary. Kind to yourself, clear with yourself. Kind to others, clear with others. Then things will be fine. Be clear, be kind. This is the two wings of enlightenment, Be kind is the accumulation of merit. Be clear, accumulation of wisdom. But put into simple words, be clear, be kind. Including be kind to yourself. If you have a lot of like entanglements, you don't need to beat yourself over that. You recognize, and I'm trying, but I have these shortfalls. I have these faults, and they are faults, because they pull me down. And then when I'm going down, I might grab some people along the way and cause, pain to others. But then be kind to yourself, be kind to others. When we see others engaging in harm, be kind. Be kind doesn't mean, definitely doesn't mean facilitating them, joining them. That's not being kind, Yeah. So be kind doesn't mean, allowing other people, but kind. Be kind and be clear. So kindness without clarity will lead to a lot of messiness. Clarity without kindness, very harsh. Very harsh. So the two accumulations, the two bodhicittas. Take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Guru or not, can come later. My teachers tend to emphasize that. Take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. They will never fail you. Take Buddha Shakyamuni. Khenpo Rinpoche always says, take Buddha Shakyamuni as your root guru. Jigten Sumgon also says, take Buddha Shakyamuni as your root guru. This root guru will never fail you. In part because, he's not walking around doing things that will make you go, huh? So that's the perfect root guru to have, Buddha Shakyamuni. It's good, And so especially today, Chodo Dorje, take Buddha Shakyamuni, as our root guru. Then all the gurus that we will come across in our life are basically aspects of Buddha Shakyamuni. Then we can appreciate, all the teachers, formally teachers, informally teachers, obviously teachers, not so obviously teachers, including, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, sickness, illness, suffering, obstruction, they are all guru. So we talk so much about guru yoga, and it tends to, this discussion of guru yoga, tends to go in the direction of, oh, you have to listen to the guru, you have to do whatever the guru says, this, that, But there's a whole other side of guru yoga that we miss. And I don't know, it seems like even teachers don't emphasize so much. Is, Jigten Sumgon says, right, in that one teaching that some of you heard, illness and sickness and troublemakers, train to see that they are all manifestations of your guru. Then have gratitude and devotion to that. It's like, wow. So it means now we have a different attitude, We need to have a different attitude to problems. That they are our guru. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara, and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers. And may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstruct us, who harm, those who create obstacles, Maras who mislead, and their Mara retinues, have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. With my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends, and having become as limitless as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. A couple of comments too regarding the display of miraculous powers. And also how, generally the Buddha actually forbade his monks, his disciples from displaying these miraculous powers. And so that again, related to this documentary about the cult leaders, many of their followers report miraculous things happening around them. Now, if you don't believe in these powers, you might say, it's just all, mass hysteria, all of that, so there can be secular explanations, but even from this perspective, I would say, no, it's possible. They have powers. But I think quite clear from the Buddha's teachings, having these powers is not a sign at all that they have dealt with the 3 poisons. Having these powers don't mean anything, really. Even the power to heal someone, even the power to bring someone back from the dead. In many ways, we can say, the doctors at the hospital on a daily basis, bring people back from the dead. As in, if it was 50 years ago, they would be dead already. But, right? Mastery of medical science. But you don't treat the doctor as your savior. Maybe you have gratitude, but it says nothing about their holiness. It says nothing about their purity. It says nothing about how much the afflictive emotions are here or there. So the real transformation that the Buddha taught us is the dispelling of the 3 poisons. And to be free from the 8 mundane concerns. That is at the center of what we are doing. So I'm not impressed really with this magical feats, actually. I started kind of interested in spiritual things as a very young kid. I've seen things, when I was a young kid, of miraculous display, of different degrees, of different types. So much so I say to people, If something or someone suddenly appears in front of me right here, it doesn't really surprise me. When you grow up in Southeast Asia, you see a lot of things. I don't know about Mexico, but in the US, no, you don't see these things, or at least most people don't experience these things. When you grow up in Southeast Asia, we have all kinds of magic there, and all kinds of people who have have done things, and it's like in the end, they're not very impressive because as individuals, there's still a lot of things to work on. So fundamentally, the Buddha's teachings, it's not about that. Yeah, so the real miracle that the Buddha displayed really is changing minds, changing hearts. That's the real miracle. Okay, ta-ta.